When I was 14, my parents took us on a vacation to a secluded resort. It had an old-fashioned, rustic charm, with wooden buildings, creaky floors, and a very rural vibe. The whole place felt stuck in another era, and there were huge, creepy bugs roaming the hallways. The lingering smell of cigarettes only made it worse. To top it off, I felt way too old to be there with my family, especially since I was the only boy, and my sisters were only 9 and 5. I tried to find other teens my age, but it seemed like the resort was mostly filled with families with younger kids. One day, while I was hanging out in the arcade with my sisters, I met a 15-year-old girl named Alisa. She came up to me and introduced herself, and it turned out she was also staying at the resort with her family. She wasn't enjoying her time there either, so we started talking. Alisa was a little odd. She had kind of a goth vibe about her, and she had a mysterious air that made me a bit uncomfortable, but also intrigued. The next day, I ran into her again near the pool. She waved me over and suggested we take a walk by the river through the woods. I agreed, and we spent some time talking by the water. I tried to get to know her better and asked which building her room was in, but she gave me a vague answer, saying it was near the main hall. I didn't think much of it at the time. As we sat by the river, Alisa started talking about some pretty dark topics. She opened up about how much she hated her family and how she felt like she had no friends anymore. She even mentioned she liked the feeling of blood, which I thought was strange but didn't want to judge. Then, out of nowhere, she pulled out a huge switchblade, flicked it open, and looked at me. She told me she sometimes thought about using the knife on herself or on someone else. At that moment, everything shifted from weird to genuinely disturbing. I didn't know how to react, and I started to feel really uncomfortable. She asked me if I wanted to use the knife on someone, and I tried to play it cool, saying I needed to think about it. But in reality, I was horrified. I immediately decided it was time to leave, so I suggested we head back outside and walk around the resort grounds. As we walked, I noticed the way she stared at people passing by, almost like she was sizing them up, and it made me even more uneasy. Fortunately, I spotted my parents nearby, so I quickly told Alisa that I needed to go hang out with them. She looked annoyed but said it was fine, and I hurried off, hoping I wouldn't have to deal with her again. Later that night, we got back to our room around 9:00 p.m. The resort had large rooms, so I had one that was connected to my parents' and sister's room, but it also had its own door that opened into the hall. I tried to get some sleep, but about 30 minutes after I laid down, I heard the sound of the door unlocking, followed by it opening and closing again. When I looked up, the light from the hall was gone, but I saw someone standing in the doorway. I called out, asking who it was, and then I heard a familiar voice. It was Alisa. She said, "I want blood," and my stomach dropped. I realized she had kept my key card and had planned this. She stepped closer, holding something in her left hand. I could barely make it out in the dark, but she repeated, "I want blood. Will you help me get it? From you." At this point, I was terrified, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I screamed like a little kid. She just stood there, staring at me. But before anything else could happen, my dad burst into the room, and Alisa immediately turned and ran. My dad saw her, and I yelled that she was going to kill me. He was about to chase after her, but I screamed, "Don't. She has a knife." The whole hallway came alive with people rushing out of their rooms to see what was going on. We went down to the main office to get more information about Alisa, but there was no record of anyone named Alisa staying at the resort, nor was there any girl close to her age there at that time. It was as if she had never existed. Police were called, and about 4 cop cars showed up to search the entire perimeter of the resort. They even left a few cop cars stationed overnight because of all the kids staying there. The resort changed the key card lock on our door, and we were told to stay in our rooms for the rest of the night. The next day, my family and several others left the resort early. We were given a refund for the days we didn't stay, and I was glad to be out of there. I still can't believe what happened. And the more I think about it, the more it terrifies me. Alisa was clearly mentally unstable, and I shudder to think about what could have happened if my dad hadn't shown up when he did. That girl was seriously messed up, and who knows what she could have turned into if she wasn't stopped. It was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life, and I'm just glad I got away unscathed.